You carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
We are back. I'm Chris Evan, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, here to cut through the propaganda with raw truth from an American conservative angle. Appreciate all y'all out there following us and holding the fort down, standing firm for faith, family, and freedom, the pillars that built this nation, and keep it going strong. So tonight we're going to load you up with some intel so that you can stay sharp and hold your own in family gatherings. My co-host here, Jeff MD, knows all about hosting family gatherings recently.
Yeah, I do.
Kind of like Thanksgiving, just different. And we've got Major Jeff. Sorry, go ahead.
It's just a week-long Thanksgiving.
Well, week-long Thanksgiving. There you go. And Major Jeffrey Prather is back with us tonight. A true patriot, has served with distinction and brings us a serious level of insight, especially on the intelligence side. We're going to dive into the 90-day tariff truce, between the USA and China, and lay out what it means for you, your family, and our country. And unlike the legacy media, no BS, just straight facts. So, Major, if you would be so kind as to reintroduce yourself to our audience, I would appreciate it.
Hey, Chris and Jeff, thanks for having me back. Yeah, so I was a military intelligence branch Army officer, commissioned in '84 because I was already airborne. I went to airborne school as a cadet. I went straight into SOCOM, went straight into PsyOps, commanded an airborne OpDet, which put me with Special Forces and Rangers all the time. So I got to then go over to 7 Special Forces Group. This is in the 80s. Ended up working with the Contras. Ended up working right before the Panama invasion. Then in 90, well, while we were prepping for that, the one of the teams was training at Fort Sherman, which was then the Jungle School, a long-hair team. I thought it was CIA guys. I was a captain by then. I just went over to see. He said, no, it was DEA Operation Snowcap guys. So I'd also gotten to go to Special Forces Special Operations Tactics School, which was the Blue Light Operator course. Blue Light was the stand-up group before Delta came online. So it's hostage rescue shooting. It was shooting until you got calluses on your hands. It was shooting with targets right over your head and switching places, the SAS stuff, which was super cool. And there were, Delta guys and Blue Light guys teaching me. So I learned from the best gunfighters in the world. Left active duty in 90 because that team was actually a snowcap team. So I was quickly recruited because I spoke Spanish. I was a military intelligence and I was SOT guy. So, they couldn't wait to grab me. So ended up as a DEA agent, graduated from the FBI Academy, where the DEA agent school was then. In 90, spent a decade on the border in Nogales in cross-border ops, most dangerous stuff I ever did. Also went back to snowcap in 92. So back to Central and South America. In the 90s, where in the 80s, I was there with SF. And also I was recruited simultaneously by the Defense Intelligence Agency, by a still low profile tier 1 special missions unit that in my day, it was called Foreign Operations Group. It's had a lot of names, Sea Spray, Torn Victor. Most people don't even still know it, but it was to prep for. It came out of Eagle Claw when the crash in the desert, trying to rescue the Iranian hostages. Because the CIA wasn't prepared to deliver the intelligence that Delta needed, and so they needed a unit that could go in ahead of time and do special reconnaissance. Now, Rangers and everybody have special reconnaissance units, but there is still a very low profile SMU, tier 1 SMU that does that kind of stuff. And I got to be in that as well. And then 93, I became a DEA firearms instructor. 03 to 04, I was recalled to active duty for 2nd GWAT. And when I was leaving, they were deploying a lot of Army interrogators and debriefers. In fact, my sergeant is the guy who found Saddam, wrote a book on it.
Oh, wow.
He's a hero. I had him on my show, Eric Maddox. But I said, but a lot of these guys were getting shot up. And I said, hey, I was in SF, SOT. I know what you guys need. I can put together a 5-day pre-deployment course better than these other schools, the Crucible and stuff. And so I did that. Warrior School, ran over 250 5-day pre-deployment courses: combat pistol, combat rifle, combat pistol and rifle, night shooting with nods, trauma medicine, in some cases ramming, because I got to go to those schools too, ramming, wrecking, and racing. So trained all the branches. Well, first I started off with all the intelligence agencies, because I was doing it for DIA, and then CIA came, and then everybody else came. Then all the Army branches came. The Coast Guard came. So I did that for 10 years, and wrote a lot and taught a lot. Did a lot of combatives down at Camp Shelby, classes of 600 at a time with 10 assistant instructors. Wow. My close quarter combative stuff sold in Army Air Force exchange stores. My videos used to sell in my books. So I've done a lot of that. Really fun. In fact, tomorrow I'm doing an anniversary show with it's the 30th anniversary of Warrior School. My instructors were going to talk about, because it was all vets, training vets who were going down range. It was just the greatest job in the world. We only lost 3 KIA, and they were all PJs. And wow. I don't know if you know that much about PJs, but there's not many PJs.
No.
And so PJs go on everything, because they always got to have CSAR, combat search and rescue. So they're high risk, and they're great guys. Out of the over 20,000 we trained, as far as I know, we only lost 3 KIA, and they're all PJs. So we got lots of flags and letters, and so it was super cool. Warriorschool.com still up. In fact, tonight I'm teaching a handgun martial arts class that's been going on since 2009. It's my martial art around the handgun, a true American martial art, because obviously there are katas. There's draw sequences, and there's fire sequences, and there's post-shoot sequences. So, for example, the lateral step, if you are following the physiological and psychological phenomena that happen as taught by my friend, Colonel Dave Grossman, if you've read Chaology on killing, he's a friend of mine. He's been on the show. I've co-taught with him. There is a tunnel vision. So if you do the lateral sidestep, you can disappear for part of a second. So you're building the odds in your favor. Stuff like that so those go into HMACs, handgun martial arts centers, gunfighting protocols, and katas. Then, afterwards you're checking your 6. Why? Because you got tunnel vision. I've actually checked my 6 and still seen to the front, which sounds crazy, but it happens. But you want to be able to break that tunnel vision. So it's really, and it augments your responses. And the cool thing is, when I take my guys out to shoot in total darkness, because the best way to shoot in the dark is don't try and get a light on. It's going to take you too long to get, everybody has lights. I don't agree with putting lights on all the time, but because if you're reactive firing, you don't really have time to activate a light. So what you're going to do is you're going to react to the sound and the flash, and instinctive fire, instinctive reactive body indexed fire. And when we do that, they're always amazed, because they shoot better in total darkness than they do in light.
Amazing.
But we're the first time they do it, they're activating some adrenaline as well.
No doubt.
So you got to have the adrenaline, otherwise you can't simulate the conditions. So so that's kind of some of the stuff I've taught. And it's been
quick question: when you were down working with the Contras, did you ever run into Adolfo Calero?
That sounds real familiar.
Well, he was kind of the political face of the Contras, who would come up here and give speeches. And
Yeah.
Nice guy.
No, I did not run into him. I was not that high level. I was out were you down there?
No, I actually met him in Arizona.
Oh, no, I was down so I was in the Las Vegas Salient, in Mocoron, in Luz Luz, Reese, right on the border. In fact, I crossed back in the day. I can talk about that stuff now, but I was, and then I was working in a tunnel in Quarry Heights in Panama, and I had to cut my hair, put on my Class A's and my Green Beret, and go sit behind Colonel Fry, the SOC South commander, because he was getting grilled by the new Sync South. We had Syncs back then. Galvin was coming in, and the first 45 minutes was, are we going to end up before Congress like Ollie North has? And so I was sitting behind Colonel Fry, who had been in the Army for 40 years. His decorations went over his shoulder. And the answer was, no, we're doing order of battle. We're doing everything right. We're not some grandstander. I've never been a fan of Ollie North, although he's real popular on Fox News, and I got banned from Fox News long ago.
I have had dinner with Oliver North three times.
I know.
He's not a friend or anything like that, but the former CEO of the Washington Times is a friend of mine. So I used to get to go to all these NRA events as a VIP. And of course, before Oliver North got entangled in all the scandals at the NRA, he was frequent there. I want to get going on the main subject. We got to have you come back for another episode to discuss all the gun stuff, maybe more than one episode. I do want to mention Craig from Stay Brewed Coffee. What a super guy. He sends us coffee for free all the time. You can use discount code SD10 to get 10% off. None of that comes back to us. There's no affiliate stuff, but he's got 7 women in his house. Let me switch cameras here. So one of his daughters always ends up doing a handwritten letter. It's really nice with a drawing on it, and there's stuff on the back, but I can't say enough good things about Craig and Stay Brewed Coffee. Staybrewed.com is the website. We've got 3 headline stories that I want Jeff and the Major to weigh in on as well, and then we're going to get cracking on the main topic. I want to briefly mention that John Wheaton and myself, Pilgrim James from Pilgrim Ammo, Lieutenant Dan, who we had on recently, we're going to be training at WAFT, where our families train, near Groveland, Florida, next Tuesday, and shooting a ton of content on home defense and self-defense with all kinds of different firearms, most of them suppressed. It's going to be a pretty badass day. So moving on from there, we've got a couple headlines here, like I mentioned. So I'm going to pull the first one up here. And this is from Nick Sortor. So this is a video of a school board meeting where moms and dads are fighting back against a curriculum pushing radical nonsense. And they're not playing around. I don't think any of us should be. The family's the foundation of America, and they've been attacking this for, many, many decades now. And we especially have to protect our children from brainwashing. But this is a 16-second video. And you know what? This is not the same video that I was referring to. I've got something mixed up in my brief, but this is a good one too. You guys will like this. This is the judge in Milwaukee County who aided an illegal avoiding ICE, and she's been indicted. Grand jury is ready to proceed. 16-second video.
Judge, anything to say about this?
And nothing burger there. So, Major, I'd like to hear your comments first. Oops, make sure we get everybody on stage. Apologies. Major, I'd like to hear your thoughts first on this judge aiding this illegal in the courthouse to avoid ICE. What are your thoughts?
Well, of course, I've been saying for a long time that we have been infiltrated via espionage and interdicted via sabotage. And this is just what intelligence services do, foreign intelligence services do. And you always want to recruit at the highest level. And they've done a great job at the Department of Justice doing this. So I'm really glad to see this. And as Trump is trying to bring about reforms, one of the big headaches has been the lawfare from these corrupt federal judges that have been emplaced by Obama and everybody else. And that's been a very difficult hurdle to get over. But it seems like they're developing a technique for that. And that seems to be to have them help these illegals and then admit it. And then they can lock them up. So I think it's a brilliant ploy. I think it's exactly the kind of stuff that 1811s, I was a 1811 series. I was a special agent. That's the kind of stuff we should be doing, is going as opposed to, going after crack dealers and locals and stuff, doing the stuff that PDs and SOs, sheriff's, deputies and police officers could do. But this looks to be a bigger part of a strategy to go after this lawfare. And they won't get all of them by any means, but you get a couple of them and the others will start to stop very quickly.
Let's hope
if
so,
that makes
right?
sense.
Yeah, no, that's great. Jeff MD, I think we need to see more of this, but I want to hear what you've got to say.
Well, yeah, absolutely. This is a public corruption issue. When you have a judge breaking the law to help a criminal alien escape, that is a public corruption issue. This is no different than the Chicago alderman taking a $500,000 kickback to award somebody a contract. It's criminal activity under the guise of official power, and those people need to be arrested, tried, convicted, and imprisoned. And the reason they do it, and they do it so blatantly like this woman did, is because they don't think there's any consequences. And it's the same reason you have these people marching down the streets, that are illegal aliens, demanding welfare and housing and all this. It's like, you used to go in there, arrest their asses and chuck them back over the border where they came from. And all of a sudden, you won't have any more of those damn protests. And you do with these judges, too.
I'm getting attacked by a pit bull here. Apologies.
Oh, which one is it, Buddy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But don't forget the reason for this, why they are doing this. They are enthralled to the cartel. Somehow they have been either extorted, threatened, or paid off by the cartels, all of them, because the cartels own all the corridors, the plazas, where everything is run, where drugs, people, and weapons are run.
Yeah, good point there. The next one's a cool video. It's only 13 seconds long, and it's Saudi Arabia's F-15s providing an honorary escort for Trump on Air Force One. Pretty cool. I like how Mega Voice here said, America's back and respect it again. But I don't remember if it's this video or another one where they show they zoom in on one of the pilots' faces and you can see him looking at Air Force One smiling. Must not be this one, must be another one, but that's definitely pretty cool. And the last piece here I want to get y'all to comment on. So Schumer says he's going to block DOJ nominees because President Trump is getting a free plane from Qatar to replace Air Force One. Of course, Donald Trump's not getting a free plane. America is getting a free plane. It's 43 seconds long. I'm going to skip the video. I can't stand this guy. So, but I have a very specific question for both of you, and I'm going to go to you first, Major, and then you, Jeff. Just, is there any chance that a plane could be built like this, that's a Trojan horse?
I lost your sound.
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
We're still here, Jeff.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yep. Major, can you hear us?
I think he lost his audio.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Yep. Okay. So my question is, have you got us, Major? I think that's negatory
sound.
Okay, yeah, we can hear him. He can't.
Checking settings right now.
Okay, so Jeff MD, is there any chance that this plane
test?
We can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. You can't hear us.
I think that's on. My stuff is working. Can you guys check your end?
We're good here. We're good.
Good.
Yep.
Let me come out and come back in, I guess.
Okay. So Jeff MD, here's my question, and this is the only concern I have over this plane. I have no concerns over the plane being given to us, as far as it being like a quid pro quo or anything like that.
Yeah, no.
But think back to, I want to say it was maybe like 10, 15 years ago when we banned Huawei telephony switches and network switches in America, because we didn't have proof, but we had a suspicion that there was spyware on the chips, like silicone on the chip, right?
Right.
And then the Canadians at our request detained an executive from Huawei let's see. Can you hear us, Major?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're good.
So here's the question I have for both of you. I'll go to Jeff MD first, then you, Jeffrey, but it's our Major, pardon me, same question. So 10, 15 years ago, we outlawed Huawei from selling telephony and network switches here in America because we had a suspicion that they would be used by the CCP to spy on us. An executive from that company was detained by the Canadian authorities at our request and extradited to America. And at that point in time, we got an admission from Huawei that there was indeed packet sniffing software installed on chips in many of those switches. So that was the end of them selling any equipment into America. My question is, what are the chances of this plane being given to us being a Trojan horse with the ability to spy on conversations and locations for the president as far as detecting stuff that's embedded in the chip? So we're not talking regular software that's stored on a hard drive. We're talking right in the instruction set on the boards themselves. So Jeff MD, I'll go to you first, CIA background, then the Major from the Intel background. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, if the president's going to use this plane at some point, they're going to put a completely different comm suite in it, and it's going to be a U.S.-based, NSA-approved, Air Force-operated comm suite. Whatever's in it now is going to go away. The only thing that will still be in the airplane, probably, if maybe even change that out, or would be the radios the pilots use. But even then, that will probably be an upgraded encrypted comm suite. So, and when you talk about bugging it, so to speak, you got to have, if you record a conversation, you got to have a way to get it out. You either got to get it out by radio, or by satellite or something like that. And it's got to be a burst transmitter or something along those lines. But they're going to sweep the living shit out of this thing. It's a limited space. I mean, it's a big airplane. People think they're big airplanes, but they sweep entire buildings. So, and then you can tempest protect it on top of that, that even if there is something inside that they miss, it can't get out of the airplane because they'll replace the window with tempest protected glass. Basically turn the thing into a flying Faraday bag.
Oh, wow.
Right.
And the only signals that can get out are the signals they want to get out. And it'll be through the government comm system, through the NSA comm system, and out of satellite to a US controlled satellite.
Very
so
cool.
Yeah, could they try to do it? Yeah, sure. Would they be successful at it? No, probably not. If I'm assuming NSA and the Air Force, they're going to crawl over this thing, just like they do with Air Force One. I mean, Air Force One is built by Boeing, but you don't think that the Air Force and NSA crawl all over that thing once it's delivered, because you have limited control over what Boeing can actually do to secure the aircraft. So you've got to, there's going to be checks and balances and rechecks and rebalances. So I'm not that worried about it.
Good. Well, I feel a lot better after hearing that explanation, but Major, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it as well.
No, concur with that as well. And plus there'll be a SCIF, there'll be a special compartment information facility portable box inside the plane where POTUS would go if he was going to talk about anything sensitive anyway. I spent my life in SCIFs. I'm sure Jeff did too.
My whole office was a SCIF.
But did they try and bug the plane? 100%. I mean, if they didn't, I think we'd kind of be insulted or something.
Yeah.
So just to back up for a second, because I'm not familiar with that acronym, is that like Maxwell Smart, Get Smart when the silence comes down?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just double checking.
Yeah. A SCIF is a special compartmented information facility. Yeah.
Okay.
And
all right.
Everybody works in them. Anybody in intelligence has spent tons of time in them. And
you walk into one, you shut the door, your cell phone doesn't work, your pagers don't work, your radio doesn't work. Nothing works.
Fair
enough.
You
can't bring them in there anyway.
Even if you could, you don't get a signal.
There might be something really advanced in the paint or in the skin that they're trying to do something else with. I don't know what that would be, but they're not going to be able to transmit and receive stuff.
No.
Well, I I appreciate that, and that does make me feel better. I'm not that I suspected that we wouldn't be able to catch it. I just didn't know what all the protocols and whatnot were. But let's get into the main topic of the night here.
Most of that stuff, so we know how to defeat it.
Fair enough. So we've got this 90-day tariff truth and truce. Golly, I keep wanting to say truth. I was on Truce Social today. It's getting stuck in my brain. So 90-day tariff truce, USA and China, so we can hash out a deal that'll work for everybody. For many, many years, I've been saying everybody sitting at a table has to eat. And if somebody at the table doesn't eat, they're going to get up and leave the table. And that's essentially what Donald Trump was saying, is everybody else is getting fat and happy eating at this table except for America. But, as preppers and conservatives who are all about protecting our families and our communities, as well as our nation's independence, I think I could speak for all three of us to say we don't want America tied to a foreign power that trashes our values, especially a communist regime like China. And so basically what happened is we slashed tariffs on Chinese goods from 145% at the highest. That was only one category. Down to 30%. And China dropped theirs on our imports from 125% to 10%. The 30% includes a base 10% tariff that we're charging China, and then a 20% fentanyl tariff that, as long as they keep shipping the precursors to fentanyl into Mexico and then having it brought to America by cartels, they're going to pay an additional penalty, which is the 20%. And, we're doing that to keep China accountable, hopefully. The de minimis tariff on low value shipments, $800 and below on orders from Shine or Temu, went from 120% to 54%. So that's going to affect, some people's wallets and their security, their economic security. So I want to break this down on why it matters to our audience and our audience's families. So the mainstream media, CNN, LA Times, is calling this a, feel-good trade ceasefire with no real stakes. They're pushing their global unity baloney as usual. But let's not kid ourselves. Donald Trump is the master of the deal, and this is all about America standing strong. So I think Breitbart nailed it pretty good on the one I have pulled up right now, that Trump's going to play hardball, putting America first and dragging China to the table. And at the end of the day, this is my own personal opinion, the tariffs being in place for a few weeks was enough to give China a taste of just how much they will suffer if they don't come to the table and strike a deal that's good for everybody. Their economy is already shaky, and we gave them another shake up by, putting these tariffs on for a few weeks, to the point where the Chinese economy virtually in free fall. I'll go to you first, Jeff MD, and then you, Major, for your thoughts at a high level on this 90-day truce.
We've been saying from the very beginning that the tariffs are a negotiating tactic, and you basically it's the kind of hitting the mule in the head with the 2x4 to get its attention. And we want to do trade with China. We want them to buy our stuff, and there's stuff that they buy that we aren't necessarily interested in manufacturing, that we can get from them, at a better price than we can make it ourselves, or that we don't want to waste our manpower and resources on manufacturing. Think of injection molded plastic crap, swizzle sticks and things like that. Right. Now, and he showed them, okay, you screw with this, it's going to kill you. So let's not hurt each other. Let's come to a reasonable accommodation where both of us benefit. But if not, just to let you know, it's going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt us. Because there's a lot of places that can produce crap, but there's not a lot of places like the United States who can buy billions of dollars of it.
And I've got a comparison / analogy coming up here shortly in maybe 2 or 3 minutes. But Major, I'd love to hear your high level take on this.
Well, thanks, because I think this is really important. And as a military intelligence guy, I think that most people don't understand this at all. So 20 years ago, when the Chinese watched us win the first Gulf War so quickly, and we knew we had to win quickly because we knew the press would turn against us, because at the Tet Offensive and in Vietnam, where we won every battle, and then we lost the war, because after we stopped them cold at the Tet Offensive, Walter Cronkite broadcasted it was a total success for the NVA and a failure for us. So we know we got to strike fast. So we strike fast kinetically. We were in the first Gulf War so fast, the Chinese are watching. 2 Chinese Air Force colonels write a paper called Unrestricted Warfare, a book actually, and they say nobody can take the Americans head on. Nobody can beat them. And they're right. The world has never seen the equal of the American fighting man, the American warrior, because of our love of life and freedom, that we'll fight, kill, and die for it. And then we'll give the country back. That's what makes us exceptional. But they said, we're not going to try and take them on because we can't. Nobody can. But we're going to take them on every way except kinetically, except militarily. And that means infiltrating their economy, infiltrating their culture, infiltrating their universities, their companies, their pharmaceuticals, their manufacturing. That's exactly what they have done. For 20 years, they have waged 5th generation. If you're familiar with the generations of war, you know, General Flynn and I talk a lot about those generations of war. 5th generation war doesn't look like a war. Nobody's in uniform. It's hard to even know the first rule of war that you're in your war. But for 20 years, they have waged a successful, unrestricted war against us. And in 2020, a CCP professor, so, you know, Communist Party member and professor, was bragging that they beat the United States in war. And then he didn't say much because he said too much. He was bragging too much because they don't want us to know it's a war, but it is a war as far as I am concerned. And we lost it. And that's the first war that wasn't 4th generation, that wasn't an indigenous resistance movement, you know, such as Vietnam, such as Somalia, that we have actually lost. It's the first 5th generation war we have lost. Since that time, Trump is the first and only person to ever do anything to counter that unrestricted war. The first. No one else has ever done anything because the 5th generation stealth war was so successful. And so, first of all, I give him great kudos for countering it. Secondly, I give him, because there's 2 sides, war and politics, or negotiations, diplomacy. It's the 2 sides of the same coin. War is, I force you to do what I want. Diplomacy and negotiation is, I convince you to do what I want. And so great kudos for the first and only counter to China's successful unrestricted war. And it's working really, really well. The Chinese did what the Chinese always do. They talk tough and then they negotiate, and they came quietly. They showed up right before at the Treasury. They showed up right in the morning, 7 a.m., right before the meeting with South Korea, because and they wanted to meet right before the meeting with South Korea because Trump was getting ready to replace all the made in China stuff with made in Korea stuff. And of course, the South Koreans hate the Chinese. And the Japanese hate the Chinese. India hates the Chinese. Russia hates the Chinese. They've always been traditional enemies. So it's a very successful war counter to warfare that has now gone into a truce. It is a truce right now, and they were wanting a truce because we are negotiating from a position of strength. What's the position of strength? Well, we've been getting all their stuff for 20 years, and they've been getting what? Our debt.
Yeah.
We got stuff, they got debt.
Yeah, that's an interest.
How's that working out for them? Well, their regime may collapse. So here's the biggest point I want to make, and the most important point I want to make, that it may be, and I suspect it is, Trump may be negotiating and moving like Reagan to end Chinese communism. I went into the military. I got commissioned under Reagan, and Reagan built up the military and built up the economy. And the Soviet Union The top-down control could not hold, and the Soviet Union fell. Russian communism fell. Chinese communism will fall, and it might fall under Donald Trump. And
Well,
that is huge.
I would posit in that vein that if we drop the hammer on them with tariffs, Trump had alluded to he was willing to go as high as necessary, 300, 400, 500%. That would have been the end of Xi Jinping. There's no way that he would have survived beyond that. But
he's in trouble now.
He is in trouble because their economy is in free fall. And we've covered that a fair bit. I made a quick note here, Major. I'd like to have you back and Jeff as well to discuss the failure of the Chinese military, high dollar Chinese military weapons used between India and Pakistan recently. Every last one of them just fell flat on their face. And I've read a lot of analysis that basically says China's a paper tiger because they produce this stuff, but it's junk. It's like the Temu J35 sort of thing. So anyway, that's another topic.
The Air Force carriers catch on. Of course, ours, we keep, pushing F-35s off, carriers because our Navy's not doing real good right now either. But we're better than the Chinese because a carrier to the nation's sophistication, because carriers project naval power overseas.
Right.
You've always projected naval power, but carriers, you can do everything. You can do your little Air Force, your little Marine Army. But
we need to do I hate to interrupt, but we need to do an entire episode on that, Major.
Yeah.
If that is like just a fascinating topic. And I want to have you back on for that because I want the whole brain dump on it because I think it will change people's perspective pretty dramatically. But we're running a little bit long on time, so I just want to speed things up just a little bit here. So CNBC says that this reprieve is going to help get Chinese-made stuff on the shelves in time for Christmas. Like that's what the legacy media is concerned about, making sure that you got cheap Chinese crap on the shelf and under the trees for Christmas. But at the end of the day, we've been leaning on China way too long because of being sold out by globalists, essentially. And we can't depend on China, especially when they're providing so many items to us. We're still the second largest manufacturing country in the world, but we can't manufacture a lot of stuff that we used to be the very best at before we gave it away, to the Chinese and we trained them. This 90-day breather, at the end of the day, this is our chance as America, like the Major pointed out, to change the rules of the game, end this asymmetric warfare in at least a couple different ways that's been waged against us, and get us back to self-sufficiency, which again is one of the biggest reasons we won World War II was because of our industrial capacity. Yeah. But moving on from there, Senator Blackburn, put a fine point on exactly what we already know. These countries, including China, they need us a lot more than we need them. And I tried to put this into a perspective, and some of our followers have heard me say this before, but I'm going to repeat it again because I've extrapolated a little bit. And then Jeff, to you first, and then Major, you second. So if we had $1 million, we converted it to seconds, that would equal 11 days. If we had $1 billion and we converted it to seconds, that would be 31.67 years. So all of us can relate to 11 days or, 31 years, 32 years. $1 trillion converted to seconds equals 31,667 years. Myself, I can't grasp the enormity of that number. What's 31,000 years look like? So our GDP this year is going to be in the neighborhood of 15 trillion more than China. And that's if China gets lucky. If you take 15 trillion, which basically we're going to be around 31, 32 trillion, they might be 15, 16-ish sort of thing. So 15 trillion is the difference between us and them. Convert that to seconds. That's 475,000 years, which I definitely can't get my head wrapped around. Drop down to the number 3 country, which is Germany, whose GDP is going to be around 4.5 trillion. We're $27 trillion greater than them in annual gross domestic product. If you convert that to seconds and then into years, 855,000 years. we aren't just bigger than China and the rest of the world. We are bigger by an order of magnitude when it comes to dollars and cents, size and sophistication of our economy. So, you know, this truce that's been called is not us going soft. This is a chess move to renegotiate the terms that put we're going to put America first. You still have to make it so that the Chinese get something out of it, because if not, then they will leave, and then we may not be able to dictate what happens at that particular point in time. But I would say, as Americans and Christians, we're called to defend the vulnerable, and that means standing up to this regime that's profiting off of our pain as well as, their own people's pain. And, when I say pain, I'm talking things like, opiates and fentanyl and all that stuff going with it. Now, Reuters is pushing for Beijing to diversify their supply chains. And, that might not be a bad thing, because that would loosen China's grip on a whole bunch of different things. But Jeff, I want to go to you first as far as our economy versus China and the rest of the world. I just don't think people grasp the enormity of the difference.
No, and it is a huge difference, even though they have 3 times our population. So if they have 3 times our population and half of our economy, that means their average Chinese has 1/6 the standard of living that the average American has, and it's actually less than that, because they do have a concentration of fairly wealthy people.
Mm.
And then they've just got hundreds of millions of dirt poor people. Our poor people, I mean, they always complain, oh, the poor. American poor are some of the richest people in the world. I mean, they have cars, they have televisions, they own homes. I mean, it's poor relative to everybody else. Relative to Elon Musk, Donald Trump is dirt poor.
Right.
Okay, it's all relative. And it really doesn't mean much. What is your standard of living is the main thing. And our standard of living is so much higher than theirs, because we have a strong, vibrant economy where people with good ideas will start businesses and go out on their own. We have a huge a level of entrepreneurship that most countries don't have. Even Japan, if you look at the idea of being an entrepreneur, of starting from nowhere, the whole venture capital, they are way down on the list when it comes to venture capital, because in Japan, if you fail, it's a big loss of face, and you can never get a second chance. Where in America, if you go to a startup company, a lot of people won't invest in it unless the CEO has failed at least once or maybe twice at something else, because they're like, well, he's already failed and learned he's learned what not to do this time. They
Fail
don't
forward. Yeah, fail forward. I think that's a very American, phenomena. Major, let's go right to this question here from Al Jazeera. And you might have noticed that I like to pick left-leaning legacy media. I don't like the right-leaning legacy media either. I think they're full of crap too. But this is a legit question, and I think I know that you have the answer to this. What's next?
Well, next is it's already happened. And so Trump is restoring the middle class to America, the great engine of America. That what makes this economy so great is not big business. It is small business. It is American entrepreneurship that makes it. China is stuck right now because there are people who want to make a middle class and move up. And just like Jeff said, they don't want them to do that. So when we go overseas, we always stayed in really posh places because there weren't middle class accommodations for us. There was dirt poor, and then there was rich. So we always ended up staying in palatial kinds of things. But Trump is making this happen via the most favored nation drug pricing executive order that just came out. Because where are all of our pharmaceuticals made? Where are all of the pharmaceutical companies making, besides Ukraine, which Russia is destroying those biolabs and all those? It's all China. So Xi is really stuck because he doesn't want that middle class to emerge, because then communism will fall naturally on its own. And now Trump is going to enact this most favored nation drug pharmaceuticals. Now that's a little bit tricky to do, but with AstraZeneca, Moderna, who just went into China last year, and these are transnational corporate big pharma cartels, really. They're just cartel leaders with ties that are trying to get rid of nation state borders. That's what all the influxes were, because they want corporate regional markets. So Trump is stopping that by reestablishing nation state borders, by defining what it means to be American in the United States of America, as opposed to a Mexican in Central America, or a South American. We're all Americans, but that's why we have borders. We're defined by that. And the way he will probably pull this off is because he can't set drug prices, but he can require companies through the FDA to use the same pricing overseas that they do here. And he's putting this on all of the foreign nations. And that's really, really smart, because that is really part of the dark economy. The deep state, which is, I call the intelligence community, runs the dark economy, which is diplomatic pouch, which is people, drugs, and weapons. And so, in my day, it was the Contras. We were talking earlier about Ollie North, CIA, Contras, cash, and cocaine builds the Clinton cartel of death. A lot of that was going on in Afghanistan. And so he is really countering that. So that, to me, is the extra cut after the tariff truce with China. The next move really makes total sense, because that really, again, the whole tariff war was window dressing for everybody but China. In my view, it was really all about China. Although he is building alternative sources, we're already getting stuff from Vietnam and Cambodia, and they are all enemies with China. So we're building alternatives, and so this pharmaceutical egalitarian pricing, which he will bring about probably through FDA and DOJ controls on American companies, will strengthen the nation state. It will weaken big pharma, and big pharma is the vector of the global cabal. And the global cabal, to me, are the rogue intelligence agencies, the Five Eyes, the Seven Eyes, doing whatever they want. So that's really the next step is already happening.
We've actually discussed that at length, how big pharma is the money bags behind like all this stuff, the money kings, whatever you want to call it. That's really interesting, because you and I and Jeff, we haven't discussed this together, but we're completely on the same page. By the way, that's me having dinner with Colonel Oliver North. He's in the middle, and the CEO of the Washington Times on the other end. So I'm like the Forrest Gump of the business world. Well, never the smartest guy in the room, but I get invited to a lot of cool stuff. Go ahead, Joe.
No, you got to look at, like, ivermectin costs pennies to make.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's been around for a long time. But Viagra gets popular and it's $30 a pill. You think it costs them $30 to make? You think it costs them 30 cents to make it?
No.
Hell no.
3 cents.
Yeah. So what they're basically doing is they're doing the R&D. They're making us pay for everything, and then they sell it overseas and make the profits there. And we just need to say, no, we're not going to. Anyone who uses this pill should have to pay the same price.
I don't disagree.
There's 100% that what Trump is doing is absolutely right. And what we need to see, what RFK has talked about, is saying you can't advertise, because advertising drugs that are prescription drugs, who are you advertising to? Doctors aren't watching those commercials. It's the patients. What they're doing is they're paying off the news, the media to not.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm glad you closed.
Right. It's only dealing in America where you can do that. It's illegal in every other country in the world.
I'm glad you closed sorry, Major, but I'm glad you closed the loop on that. We only got about 7-8 minutes left. But we've mentioned this before, Major, that 75% of advertising revenue for legacy media comes from big pharma, not because they expect the three of us to walk into our primary and say, write me a script for this product. That's a side effect. What it boils down to is them saying to the legacy media, you either publish this narrative or we're going to pull our ad spend from you. And if they do that, that's the death knell for them, basically. So I want to kind of tie this up together with how preppers, Americans, can stay ready during this truce. The rest of the world too. I'm not trying to ignore anybody else. So, what do we do during these 90 days? So I would say first and foremost to our audience is take a hard look at what you're buying. If you're stocking up on, whatever, EDC gear, survival supplies, whatever it is, hunt for American-made options now, sooner not than later. And even though it might cost a little bit more to buy American, pardon me, it's about investing in our future. Case in point, I am now down $40,000 in income in the past 2 weeks because of Chinese companies canceling their demand generation spend for educational videos going into hurricane season. We normally have one after another like that, and they've pulled all of that money. It's hitting me directly in the pocketbook, and I don't have an alternative source to make up for that money, by the way. But if you have the chance to buy American, buy American. We're taking it on the chin a bit from these things, and that's okay because we're doing the right thing collectively as a nation. I would say, since we brought up the legacy media, is don't fall for the legacy media's propaganda. I see some super intelligent people who will send around, and people who I feel have a good grasp on things. And then next thing you know, I see them pushing an article from Jim Cramer or CNBC like it's dogma or something. And it completely
stock picker in history.
Yes.
Do the exact opposite, right?
The opposite, the anti-Pelosi.
Exactly. So I would just caution people, don't fall for that legacy media, especially if you're a little older, late 50s and beyond sort of thing. I know I was brought up to believe in these institutions, but we can't believe in them. And so you've got BBC and CNN already out there calling this a win for China, and it's not a win for China. And, this article that's up on screen, it's in the daily sit rep. You can check that out. You have Patreon or Substack, $9.99 a month, $95. You get 2.5 months for free. You get all the sit reps. You get $370 worth of our e-magazines. It was $49 in total. You get an invite to our Signal chat. I showed a picture the other night ago. JJ Morris missed a day of keeping up with our Signal chat. He had 3,144 unread messages. So there's a fair bit of value to signing up on Substack or Patreon. Anyway, I would myself, like as a Christian, I think we should be praying for our president and all of his lieutenants to succeed in this mission of essentially decoupling our economy from China. And, we need to ask God to give our negotiators the guts and wisdom to secure deals that honor our values and keep America free, unlike the globalists who've sold us out, whether it's Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, or any more of these scumbags. So essentially, like, this truce is a chance to regroup, but we've got to make it happen. The time to make it happen is right now. So, Jeff, I want to hear your parting thoughts on what our audience can do, and then you, Major.
Well, I think it's really important to support American industry whenever you can. And they'll buy American. There's something to that, because even if you spend $1 or $2 more, that money is going into the pockets of your neighbors. Either they're the retailers or the manufacturers, the people on the line. It's staying here, and it's staying in our country. And then they in turn buy things. Maybe they're buying stuff from your business. But once it goes over to China, it's pretty much gone. They're not buying our stuff.
You want to talk unintended consequences, and you can weigh in on this, Jeff, or you can, Major. So last week, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was 57 banks in China went out of business. And the reason they went out of business is because they were flush with cash, which sounds kind of odd, But when a bank is flush with cash, it means that it hasn't loaned it out to anybody so that they can charge interest on it and make money off of it. And I just thought that was a pretty interesting comment. So Major, I'll get your thoughts on that. Like, us sending our money to China actually has had a negative effect in some ways.
Yeah, it has. So, I'm way out in the country, so we do a lot of trade with our neighbors. We try and pay cash, or we try and pay check as well, not credit card. So you're not helping out the credit card companies as well. Rural people are real conscious of that as well. We should pray. I'm a Christian chaplain. You can follow our stuff at christchaplaincy.com. We have services every Sunday. So yeah, we should be praying for Trump and his lieutenants. We should also be getting the gift of discernment from the great Holy Spirit. So we have directions of what to do. So we have discernment and deliverance gifts as well. And then, a real practical one is, for example, jeffreyprather.com/Jace, the Jace prescription company. We have packets of prescription drugs for on hand for emergencies for me and my wife and our kids. Now, some of that stuff still comes from China. You just can't get it anywhere else. But we're just in the beginnings of returning back to our roots. If you get into the spiritual aspects, if you get into the aspects of Revelation, where the woman gets carried in the wilderness on the wings of eagles, it looks like the church comes back to America, and America is a sideshow in the Great War in Israel. And we kind of go back to what we were, where we were making our own clothes, we were growing our own food. We didn't need, and Washington did not want us in all these foreign wars. And he ran his own intelligence service, by the way, Agent 711. He didn't delegate any of that out. So I see us beginning to return to that. So I'm real hopeful and faith-filled, and we know how to do it because we did it once before.
Really, really well said, Major. Thank you. Appreciate that very much. So as far as our audience is concerned, we want to hear from you. Want to hear your thoughts in the chat on the live broadcast. We're broadcasting on 9 platforms right now. We want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. We review all of that. If you're in our Signal chat, we want to hear your thoughts there as well. So Mark from Ohio hit us up on X, asking, how do I know if the gear I'm buying is really made in America? And that's a good question. You can check the labels for made in the USA, obviously, just to state the simple stuff. But many times it's worth snooping around a company's website, and you'll find out pretty quickly that what you're looking at was made in China, especially if you do something like grab an image of the product and then upload it for a search on that image. The next thing you know, you find out that it's for sale on, Temu or some other Chinese site. In those instances, somebody's not telling the truth as far as made in the USA, as well as the fact that we all know this. Many companies say, assembled in America, because that's basically like saying straight up, our stuff is made in China. So you have to dig a little bit deeper. When in doubt, deal with local shops, people that in your community and that you trust. But Mark, appreciate that question. It's actually a really, really good question. Susan on Substack also dropped a comment. She said, I'm worried this deal means we're letting China off easy. What's your take? We hear you, Susan. I think we've pretty much summarized why that's not the case in this episode. And, I don't think that Donald Trump's going to let up on this. This was just a tactical play to renegotiate on our own terms. And we've got to keep pushing for American manufacturing independence. I'm super concerned, in particular, the Major mentioned aircraft carriers. Our percentage, or our share of the global ability to produce naval vessels, is 0.5%. China's is 50%. That is an absolutely horrible position for us to be in, and we've got to bring that back. We haven't done any audience polls. I'm going to do a quick one right now. If you think we should have kept the high tariffs in place, put a 1 in the live chat, whatever platform you're on. If, on the other hand, you think the truce is a smart move so that we can renegotiate, put a 2 in the live chat. Curious to see what all of our subscribers think. So at the end of the day, you know, this 90 days gives us a chance to renegotiate. I would caution people, you know, don't let cheap goods make you lazy. We have to, like the major said, we have to be focused on self-reliance, and we have to keep China accountable for the fentanyl crisis. And we have to back American businesses every chance that we get. So this 90-day thing is just, it's a, like Jeff MD stated, it's a means to an end. So again, we want to hear from y'all, whether it's on our Substack or Signal chat, if you're a Guardian, anything like that. And keep in mind, you know, the best feedback from y'all out there ends up, you know, we'll give you a shout out here on the broadcast, pardon me. And if you're getting value from our work, please join our Guardian program to help us keep the truth flowing to patriots like you. Right now, you can grab a free 1-month Guardian subscription, and I'm going to send the link out to everybody in the live chat, and I'll show you the page in just a second. So it's on its way to everybody out there right now, and this is the page it'll take you to. And the link I just sent out is good until May 31st. So you basically get a 30-day, subscription as a Guardian that gives you all the benefits that we've already covered. But that also includes all of our e-magazines, by the way, which is a $370 deal in itself. And last but not least, and this is for you, Major, I can't believe we did not set this up. And when you see it, please do me a favor and tell our audience we did not set this up. But when you were discussing your training with shoulders near, or pardon me, targets over your shoulder and whatnot, it couldn't have been a better comment than what Dale, this is the post of the day from Dale in our Signal chat. So if you and your buddies aren't plate checking each other, are you really living? 25 seconds, and then tell me that you haven't done this, Major. So it's not really.
No, I haven't done that, but I believe that Spetsnaz does that. I've seen that before. Spetsnaz does that.
I should have taken the you know, tagline stuff off of there, because I was going to ask you. I was going to say, which nationality do you think this is? But you already nailed it.
No, I've seen it before. Spetsnaz, that's a regular part of Spetsnaz is our Russian special forces, or at least that's what they used to be called. And they do some really tight training. We do not do that.
Well,
I've
again,
also seen where they get really close to each other, and he's at a collapse low ready or soul and fire right into the ground, just because the instructor says fire right into the ground.
Those soldiers were Russian is really what I'm getting at. So it's really ironic that you would throw that out there as Russians. And it's ironic you would discuss the other stuff. And that just happened to be, I chose this last night as the post of the day yesterday from Dale in our chat. God works in mysterious ways, puts us right where we're supposed to be.
I ran into some Uzbek Spetsnaz in Afghanistan, and they are some crazy MFers.
No kidding.
Yeah, they're tough. The Chinese troops are not. They are paper tigers.
China hasn't had a war since the 70s, and they lost to Vietnam.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right. Now, next episode tomorrow night, I'll be back. I've got Sam Anthony from yournews.com. We'll be covering some of the headline news. If y'all watched him last time he was on, the guy's wicked smart, and he's really on top of things. I want to thank all of our listeners and subscribers, by the way, before I forget. We couldn't grind out the hours to bring all of this news to you without knowing that it was actually sticking and resonating. Friday, we have pro MMA fighter Shannon Rich on. He was assaulted by a gang member with a knife in Arizona, and he had to neutralize the threat at like 2 feet away from him. The knife was basically, and he shot the assailant in the neck with Pilgrim ammunition, and it obliterated the assailant's front of his neck, but it didn't come out the back. So the ammunition worked exactly the way we've been telling you all that it works. Unfortunate somebody had to lose their life, but it was either that or Shannon Rich would have potentially been killed. But we'll have Pilgrim James on Friday night. John Wheaton will be with me. John's partner, retired SWAT team leader Dave Kemp, will also be with us. It's going to be a really interesting conversation from somebody who's actually been in that situation where they were being attacked. Other than that, I appreciate if you would please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and enjoy tonight's video, The Last of My Kind. Major, thank you very much for your time. Jeff, as usual, appreciate your time. God bless America.
Thanks for having me. God bless.
God bless.
Trump is something special. Nobody is even close to Donald Trump. It's not close. Trump is so special that people don't realize. And I'm telling you, no one's like him. DJT is so unique, it really is, it's hard to describe. No one's like him. Nobody is even close. Nobody. When you talk about sacrifice, danger, management, leadership, structure, vision, it's not close. The boss is that far out in front and that much better than everybody else.